All right, I'm going to put my notes up on the screen for those of you that just want to glance at them and follow along. Might be a little bit plainer than what you actually hear me say. I want to say thank you, first of all, for everyone who's listening. It's a wonderful thing to be able to fellowship across state lines and even farther than that, maybe for some of you. The topic tonight was, I think, posted. It was life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I heard this short quip here not too long ago where it says, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. So this starts off with thoughts and words become actions. Isn't that an interesting dynamic? And every one of us is this way. We have to think about something before we say it and before we do it. So there's a definite sequence of events going on here. But our words have tremendous power. Our words can tear people down or they can build people up. Our words can be critical and our words can give affirmation and edify. So it's very important for us to try to control the things we say, because the things we say have everything to do with the quality of our relationships, both inside and outside the body. And maybe you've all thought about it in this light before. Maybe this is just all way too obvious. But maybe throughout the course of this study, I can say one or two things that causes you to stop and think. Here's some words that are typical phrases we hear throughout society. Loose lips sink ships. Talk is cheap. Put your money where your mouth is. A little bird told me. Out of the mouth of babes, some things are better left unsaid. Silence is golden and lost in translation. And did you ever eat your words? I'd like this first to turn over to Job. When you hear your friends talking, or when you're in conversation and fellowship, or if you're at work, do you realize when you hear someone else's words, you analyze those words? And the way it's put here is we taste the words. We get a flavor for what's being said. In Job 12:11, does not the ear test words and the mouth taste its food? And the mouth taste its food. It is the flavor of the voice inflection. You know, when someone says something, it can be bitter or sweet, right? Dropping down to Psalm 119, 103, how sweet are thy words unto my taste. Yes, they are sweeter than honey into my mouth. And finally, we get to the topic here in Proverbs 18:21, where it says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. Have you thought much and dwelled on that proverb in your past? Maybe at some point in your life you said something that you wish you could pull back. Or maybe at some point in your life you knew you should have said something, but you didn't. And you regretted it. For example, maybe you could have encouraged someone. You could have spoke words of life and power into a person, but you didn't do it. Maybe you were a little shy, or maybe you were inhibited or intimidated because other people would hear what you say. And so you may regret having not said something. Or maybe you regret it because it was necessary to make a correction, but you didn't do it. Whatever the reason is, life and death are in the power of the tongue, and you control that. So you have a tremendous ability to have influence into the life of another person. And I made a list here. We all speak words of life and of death. We speak words that hurt, that strengthen, impart wisdom. We speak words that insult, lie, that tell the truth, words that praise, words that destroy, words that proclaim, encourage, and comfort, and convince. We speak words that inform, that command, that instruct, that demand, words that accuse and criticize and demean, scorn and correct, words that condemn and deceive. And we speak words that edify and inspire and affirm, words that agree and approve and accept and reject. We speak words that worship, that honor, that curse, that influence, that stir people, that stir yourself. Words that motivate and bless. We express love with our words, joy, excitement. We express confidence. We pray with our words. We sing. We hate. We express anger and doubt and frustration, grief, and one that I'm good at, sarcasm, hostility, fearfulness, discouragement, arrogance. We express opinions. We complain. We promise, we vow, we jest, and express faithfulness, care, kindness, calming, tenderness, pain, and pleasure. That's quite an extensive list of things, but all of those things come out of our words from time to time. And of course, some of those things can be shown in action. But we're talking about words and the effect that our words have on other people, those whom we love, those whom we don't even really know, our co-workers, our neighbors, the community around us. And you're responsible for those words, aren't you? If anyone wants to interject a thought along the way here, or make a comment, or ask a question, just feel free to do that by opening your mic and just speak out. I have way too many notes here to get through, so since we're not going to get through these notes, I want you to feel free to interject at any time you want to. All right? Now here's something that we see out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. You've read that perhaps many times. That which is on the inside comes out. So how do you control that? Do you remember ever seeing an illustration where somebody has a funnel on top of their head and somebody is pouring either propaganda or some other philosophy or some other ideas into another person's head? You've seen that picture before. Pouring it in. And years ago, there used to be an acronym, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. And that's true of us. And we can't deny the fact that the stuff we pour into us does come out. And you may be able to suppress it You might pour it in year after year and kind of suppress it and control it, but sometimes it oozes out, and sometimes it's suddenly, and it's oops, too late, it's out. Let's read verse 45.
True. That is so true and stuff, brother. I've had experience myself where one of my neighbors was keep on asking me for things and so forth, and telling me how to go and wash my laundry when I already knew how to wash my laundry, told me how to go and talk to people and all that type of thing. And it just got me so angry to the point that there was one day I just snapped at her and said, do not tell me how to go and talk to anybody else, and don't tell me how to go and wash my laundry. I don't want anything to do with you. Leave me alone.
Oh, wow. Well, that kind of thing.
I said that, and I said it within this past week and stuff on Monday, because of my neighbor was we get food downstairs in the community room, and somebody had like some like stuff for omelets and stuff, all the fillings and stuff that you add to omelets, and one of them had pork. And so I told him I don't eat that and stuff of another neighbor, and this other neighbor was like saying, do not go and tell them that and stuff. If you don't want it, you don't take it. I said, well, people don't understand why I don't want things, so I need to explain myself. And she says, oh, well, still you don't need to go and tell everybody. It's like, leave me alone. Do not tell me how to talk. So
yeah, sometimes we don't let our light shine so good because we have kind of a knee-jerk reaction, maybe if we feel we're under pressure.
Well, the thing is, I was dealing with all this pressure for months upon months of her doing this. She asked for money and everything like that, and she comes to my apartment, and I found out that she goes gambles with her money. And stuff. So she's not being good stewards with her money, and she's coming over wanting to use my phone, borrow money, never pays me back. And I've been dealing with this for like a half a year to a year, and finally I blew my top with her.
Yeah. Well, there's probably a better way to handle it instead of blowing your top, to just be a little more assertive, to be more open and honest without being angry.
Well, I try to go and be honest, open and honest, saying, hey, I don't want to go and let you borrow any money and that type of thing, but she keeps on coming back. So I guess that didn't get through to her.
Well, you have to be consistent. Sometimes you just have to do it several times before they get the.
Oh, I've been consistent. That's not even an issue. I've been consistent. Gotten to the point where I got fed up with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that can happen to anybody. We've all done things like that, and we try not to. You know, we try to control our tongue, and it's a difficult chore because life is always challenging us in various ways.
At least I didn't use foul language.
That was good. That was good. Yeah, because we don't want to offend people just because we want to put up boundaries. We have to have boundaries, and we can't let people walk on us, and we have to let people know, how far they can go, but no farther. But we try to do it in as nice a way as possible. Sometimes people won't let nice be good enough. All right, let's read Proverbs 4. What goes in is regarded and accepted and is embraced and will eventually flow back out. Oh, wait, I didn't read the other one, did I? I didn't read Luke 6:45. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth that which is good. This is what I was talking about, garbage in, garbage out. What we pour in comes out. And an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, his mouth speaketh. So what are we? Are we purely good inside? No. and we're not purely evil, but we're in a process, right? We're getting better and better every day, even though sometimes the growth we're experiencing is not real obvious. We're struggling and striving to improve towards excellence of spirit. And over the years, you will notice the change on the inside. But it doesn't happen in one day. And you can't point to one person throughout the entirety of Holy Scripture where it shows they were suddenly imbued with character that was holy and pure and excellent, and that they didn't have to struggle and work on it. No, you won't find that. Everyone has to work on it. It's a fight. And that's just the way it is, for a good reason. Because things that are just free and come easy are not respected or valued. So it is with godly character. If you can just have it at the wave of a magic wand, so to speak, then maybe you wouldn't have to reflect on years and years of difficulty, and you wouldn't respect it and treasure it as much. But when you meet a person and you can sense the godly character in that person, you treasure that. You want to be that person's friend, and you want to spend time with that person because of the value of what's been built into their character. So we work year after year and try to improve. And so if you want out of, as it says here, out of the good treasure of your heart to bring forth that which is good, you got to keep putting in what is good year after year, and it will build. As long as your sincerity is there and you are cooperating. When your father corrects you, you recognize correction, you accept correction. Your brethren help you see things in you that maybe are not very attractive. When you realize that some of the things you say are not a blessing, it's not edifying, but it's hurtful, insulting. You take note of those things, and you say, that which is in me isn't really all that great, but I'm a work in progress, and I know that over time, it will get better and better. And yeah, sometimes you have to apologize. That's right. Okay, we're going to drop down to Proverbs chapter 4. I just love this verse because it talks about life itself. It says, keep your heart with all diligence, or guard your heart. What am I guarding it from? Things that are going into it. The investment that I'm allowing to go into my life, right? Into my heart. So guard your heart with diligence, for out of it, the heart, spring forth the issues of life. Isn't that beautiful? Let's read it in the English Standard. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. The language here is just so, it's so refreshing and invigorating, and it's beautiful language, that this flowing, this idea that which comes out, if you guard your heart and don't let that which is detestable in, over time, what flows out is the issue of life. It's not death. What's flowing out is the opposite of what brings death and harm and destruction. Instead, it flows out and provides life, a life-giving spirit, so to speak. Remember,
I do have a comment on that. It would be kind of like you filtering out bad water or something like that. You keep the bad stuff out and keep the good stuff in.
yes.
That's kind of like what that particular verse is saying to me, is that, you filter out the bad junk so it doesn't get in, and just keep guarding it to make sure that only good stuff comes in.
Right. But the second half of it is out of it, the heart will spring the issues of life. So because you put that which is pure in, that which is pure then, comes out. So it's kind of like what you sow, you reap. So it's just a beautiful concept. I just love that, the idea of the flowing and the providing of life as a result of what comes out. All right, let's drop down now to, I'm going to skip over Isaiah 50. You can look at that yourself at another time. Here's one, Proverbs 25:11. A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. Have you ever been in a place where somebody said something just exactly the right way at the right time? Timing is important. And when they said it, it was like hitting the sweet spot. It was so appropriate and so fitting what they said that it was like a beautiful thing. Have you ever been in a presence of something like that? When I was a kid, I was about 9 years old, and we were driving on vacation from Maryland to Michigan. It's about a 10-hour drive. So I'm talking to my dad in the middle of the night, and I'm a 9-year-old boy, and I'm asking questions and questions. Finally, my dad said, "You know what? You are very observant." That was apples of gold in settings of silver. I'll tell you why. When he said that to me, it sank into my psyche. It was like words of life to me. A 9-year-old boy now believes, because his dad said so, that he was very observant. It was a powerful influence in me. I went from that point forward in my life believing that. I accepted what my dad said, believed what he said, and I went forward in life knowing I am very observant. So you see how even just some small phrase or even one sentence can have such a tremendous impact on a child's life. So when this term, speak into someone's life, maybe you've heard that before. I would like to speak into your life kind of thing. This is what it's talking about. And you can do this with adults. What if somebody you know as an adult has a gift, and you affirm that gift? If you said, you have the gift of hospitality. I've noticed over a long period of time, you are great at hospitality, or you are a great listener. Why don't you tell people when they're good at something? Especially those inside the body. But you should do it inside and outside, because it bears fruit in both of those places. We shouldn't neglect to speak words of life to people on the outside either, because this is how they begin to recognize that you've got something in your life that they want. People are called into the body through other people, right? And so what you say to people on the outside is very important. So don't see them just as negative and idolaters and pagans. If that's true, okay, that's true. But I can still say something very good and positive to a person on the outside and cause them to think, why did he say that to me? Is that true? And oh, it is true. Okay. So it's genuine. And he's sincere. I kind of like that guy. You begin to be like a light, maybe in a dark place. So that's a good thing. So word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. It would be a wonderful thing if many among us would try to speak that way to others in a deliberate effort. Make it a deliberate and intentional thing on your part, and make it a habit. Because if it's not a habit for you, it can become a habit by exercise, right? Isn't that what Hebrews chapter 5 says? You're not ready for strong milk, but you're only, you're not ready for strong meat, but you're only able to handle milk because you need to exercise your discernment and your spiritual sense. Well, it's the same thing with how we speak to people. We begin to do it and exercise it and make it a habit. It begins to provide issues of life, as it says in the proverb. This is a very important, very, very important concept. I didn't really do this much, I don't think, in the early part of my life. I'm 60 years old now, and I would say for at least the first half of my life, I was not intentionally trying to speak words that lift up and build up and affirm and encourage, and it just wasn't who I was. But I'm trying to now to get better at it. And if I don't exercise and put effort into it, it simply will not happen, because my human nature will take over and I'll just be critical and condemning. And
Nobody wants to learn.
yeah, nobody wants to be around me. All right. You can check Proverbs 15, 1 through 7 on your own time. Let's go down to, I can see I'm going to run out of time here. I love this verse more than, I don't know, there's something about this verse in John 7. So this event took place immediately following the last day of the feast. Last day, it says, on the last day, that great day of the feast in John 7. And immediately following that, the Pharisees had sent officers to arrest him. And here's what it says in John 7:45. Then the officers came back to the chief priests, chief priests and Pharisees, who said to them, "Why have you not brought him?" And the officers answered, "Here's why we haven't brought him. No man had ever spoken like this man." What? You didn't bring him because of the words he said? What are you talking about? The Pharisees are thinking, he's a blasphemer. What do you mean you couldn't bring him because no man ever spoke like this man speaks? What happened there? What was it that he was saying that the officers were unable to apprehend him? They refused to do it because the words that he was saying were so penetrating and so marvelous and gracious and wonderful and true and right and just and perfect that they couldn't do it. Think about that for a moment. Would you like to be able to speak that way? Would you like people to be so in awe of the spiritual words that you speak that they would be so taken by it? I think it should be a goal for all of us to speak as he spoke. That's why I love this verse so much. It says so much. Never did a man speak like this man. All right. What about comforting people? In 1 Thessalonians, here, you know the section of Scripture, but I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that you trouble not, even as others that have no hope. For if you believe, and then it goes on to talk about the return of the Messiah, that we will be raised together in the air and be with him forever. And since those things are true, he says, therefore, this word therefore means since that's true, since the resurrection is true, and since the things he spoke concerning bringing us back alive again are true, therefore, since these things are true, comfort one another with these words. This is a directive. This is a kind of a very good clue as to how to comfort somebody. Talk about the resurrection and coming back alive again after being dead. That's a pretty encouraging conversation right there, because we set all our hope on the resurrection. Honestly, if our Savior wasn't resurrected, we had no hope. But he promised, since he was resurrected, that we would be. And since that's true, you should be able to comfort one another, because that's true. You will be raised. Not you might be raised. Not we're not really sure. He said it, but we can't really know for sure. That's no, no. He says, since these things are true, you comfort one another with these words. That's pretty important. You know, somebody who's down, or someone who's lost a loved one recently. Stacy, you lost your husband. If someone could have spoken to you those words, that, Stacy, we are not ignorant concerning those who have gone asleep, and you have hope, as of not, you're not stranded out there hopeless, because we know his words are true and he will bring us up again. And it's comforting to know that. We need to use these words to comfort one another. I believe it's very, very important. Because sometimes we want to be comforted and there's no one there to do it. That's a hard thing. Fortunately, our Father knows that we need comfort, and he sends people. And sometimes he allows us to not be comforted for various reasons. All right, you can study James 3 yourself. Lot to say about your words. Controlling your tongue. There in verse 1, my brethren, do not let many of you be masters or teachers, because they shall receive the greater condemnation or criticism. But you can read that yourself. This whole section of scripture is very corrective. You know, it's instructive, and it reminds us how strong the tongue is, and how harmful it can be, and how hard it is to control. You read that yourself.
I want to go and make a comment on the part that you were talking about being comforted. When my husband passed away and stuff, pretty much a lot of people were like saying, well, he's dead and gone, you got to move on, that type of thing.
That's terrible.
And that was basically what I got told and stuff. But then it's like, this is not that comforting. The only ones that were like somewhat comforting is the Veterans Affairs Office. Every single time I called them, they say, sorry for your loss. But that's as far as I gotten.
And sometimes just saying, I'm sorry to hear this, that this happened, sometimes that's all that's necessary is when you greet that person. But
right.
For people to just tell you to
But the thing is I started to get tired of people saying that to me, especially from the Veterans Affairs, when all I had to do was trying to do is take care of business.
Yeah.
They were like saying it every single time I was calling, and I was like having to call, take care of this, take care of that. It was getting tiring, and they still are doing it whenever I call them. And this is 10 years later.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the reasons so much instruction is given to us in Scripture about strengthening one another and giving testimony to one another of our personal lives and all the rest is because we need to be trained in comforting and encouraging and strengthening one another. That's just not natural. I mean, even a gifted person has to exercise the gift, right? No matter what your gift is, do you not have to exercise that gift to make it produce more fruit? Yes, you do. So it's important, and that's why the scriptures are, Old and New Testament, full of instruction about speaking words of life to one another. And if the person that talked to you, Stacy, was not trained and didn't understand the vital importance of how to comfort somebody, it's because they were lacking. And they didn't have that gift, or they didn't have an understanding of how important it was to be that person.
The person who said it was actually a pastor of a church and stuff. That's who it was that said it. Was a pastor of a church.
Yeah. Well, again, not everybody is trained or realizes the importance of making our lives grow in that area. But every one of us needs it. All right. Let's go down to, there is a time to refrain from speaking altogether. Ecclesiastes 3:7, there's a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent, and a time to speak. There's many times throughout your life, the best thing you can do is keep your mouth shut. I mean, honestly, there is a time to be silent. Why is that? Because to say anything would be inappropriate. To say anything would maybe make you a fool. Or it's just sometimes people want someone to be there, but don't say anything. Just listen. Be a good listener. Mm-hmm. Somebody wants to tell you their struggles. That's not the time for you to start blabbing about how they can cure themselves. It really isn't. Well, all you have to do is, no, you listen to them. Let them know that you care by giving them your attention, being attentive to their words. Taste the sweetness and the bitterness of their words. Analyze how they're feeling. And keep your mouth shut until it's appropriate for you to say something. This requires judgment. You have to be able to judge and discern when it's appropriate to finally open your mouth. Remember what Job's friends did? They sat down 7 days and didn't say a word. Now, I can't imagine doing something like that. But that's what they did. And I don't know what the culture was really like at the time. Was that a typical thing to do? I don't know. But they saw how great his grief was. And they sat down there. You can see it there, Job 2:13 on the screen there. So they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word to him, for they saw that his grief was very great. Sometimes when someone's grieving, keep your mouth shut. Give a hug, make eye contact, and just don't say anything. It's not what they want. They don't want to hear you blab on about, well, all you have to do is. Okay. Let's talk some more about refraining from speaking. Let's drop down to Ecclesiastes 5. Keep your foot when you go to the house of God. This is Ecclesiastes 5, verse 1. Keep your foot when you go to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools. For they consider not, that is, the fools don't consider that they're doing evil. And be not rash with your mouth when you go to the house of God. And let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God, for God is in heaven, and you, on the other hand, are on the earth. Therefore, let your words be few. What do you think about that verse? When you go to the house of God, do you just start rambling? Or are you ready to receive by listening carefully to what your Father wants to convey and communicate? Are you rash with your mouth? Sometimes I am. Sometimes I tend to be a very talkative person and not always careful. So sometimes I say things and then I wish I hadn't. And when I come to the house of God, I want to be more receptive and less overtly blabbing. And I don't want to hastily utter anything. Because God's in heaven and I'm just on the earth. You see, I'm in my place, he's in his place. I'm not him, and neither are you. We're down here. So we are the substandard being. We are the lesser being. And don't forget your place. That's the way he puts it. Hey, God's in heaven and you're on the earth. Remember that. Therefore, let your words be few. Especially if you go to prayer in anger. Maybe you've done that. Or frustration. Or grief and anguish of spirit. You might be hasty to utter things that are inappropriate. And you have to later on apologize for. Verse 3 says, for a dream comes through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words. Yeah, sometimes, if you're in a public setting, or even in a setting of church people, let's say that. Sometimes a fool is known by the multitude of words. They won't shut up, right? You start running at the mouth and blah, 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 blah. And it's like they're just saying silly things that are not necessary to say. Things that are kind of meaningless or, just fluff. Just fill in the air with noise, fluffy stuff. Sometimes a fool reveals his foolishness because he doesn't know when to shut up. And that has been all of us, I imagine, from time to time. Let's see here. You can look at Proverbs 10:19 on your own through 21. Ecclesiastes 10:11 through 14. Here's one in Job 32 where Elihu held back, and he was holding back, and he held back, and he got so much pressure built up, he finally said, now it's my turn. It's kind of funny the way he did it, right? Here's Job 32:5. When Elihu, the young man, not the three friends who were babblers, not the three friends who thought they had the answers, and they were wrong, because at the end of the book it says, your three friends have spoken that which is not right concerning me. All right. What about the fourth friend? No, nothing was said about Elihu. He wasn't condemned for what he said. He held back, and then he finally gave his peace after the elders had given theirs. Verse 5 says, and when Elihu saw there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, then his wrath was kindled. And Elihu, the son of Barachel the Buzite, answered and said, I am young, and you are old. Therefore I was afraid, and I did not show my opinion. I said to myself, days should speak, and multitude of years ought to be the teachers of wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty gives them understanding, no matter what age they are sometimes. Remember, Timothy was a young man, and Paul said, don't let anyone despise your youth, Timothy. Great men, verse 9, are not always wise. Oh, that is so true. We've all known those who were old fools. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. Therefore, I said, hearken to me, and I also will show my opinion. Behold, look, I waited for your words. You gave your peace. I gave my ear to your reasons while you searched out what to say to Job. Yes, and I attended to you. And behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, and none of you that gave appropriate answers. Lest you should say, hey, look, we have found out wisdom. Verse 14. Now he has not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with the same speeches that you gave. They were amazed. They were no more. They left off speaking. And when I had waited, for they spake not, but stood still, and answered no more. Then I said, I will answer my part and show my opinion, for I am full of the matter, and the spirit within me constrains me. Behold, my belly is as wine that has no vent, is ready to burst like new bottles. A lot of pressure built up here in this young man. He was fed up with the things that they said because they were incorrect. And he said, I can't hold it back anymore. I will speak that I may be refreshed. I will open my lips and answer. Verse 21, let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person. That's right. I'm not going to show favoritism here. Neither let me flatter titles unto a man. For I know not to give flattering titles, and so doing my Maker would take me away. Verse 33, wherefore, Job, I pray thee, hear you my speeches, and hearken unto my words. And drop down to verse 2. Behold, I have opened my mouth, and my tongue has spoken in my mouth. Okay. So you see what happened there. He waited and waited and waited for his turn. And the frustration was building, and he was fed up, and he finally gave his peace. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because you were slow to speak, swift to hear. Right? Isn't that what James said? He's slow to speak. And he did that. So he did it correct. And when they had finally utterly failed to provide a correct answer, they were done with what they had to say. He said, okay, I listened to you guys, and now I'm going to tell you what I see and understand. And that's what he did in the chapters all the way up to chapter 38, all the way to the end of 37. He was not corrected for what he said. But Job, on the other hand, he spoke ignorant words. Drop down to verse chapter 38. Job 38, verse 1. This says, then Adonai answered Job out of the storm. Okay, so Job is in a pathetic state, right? He's scraping his boils with a broken pot. Lost his entire family and all his wealth. And now, instead of a still, quiet voice, he says, no, I'm going to speak to you out of a whirlwind. Look, I'm already reduced to ashes. I wonder if the ashes were blowing in a circle at this point in time. You would think, okay, let me be gentle to you. But no, God, he knows how to approach a person. He knows when it's time for mercy. He knows when it's time to emphasize and make a strong point. So instead he says, out of a whirlwind or a storm, who is this person who's darkening my plans with his ignorant words? Why don't you stand up like a man and brace yourself? Because I'm going to ask the questions now, and you are going to give the answers. I don't think there's anyone listening to this study or anyone on the face of the earth that can imagine that setting. It just seems counterproductive to me. If I was approaching a man who was broken and had lost everything, including his own health, and his wife was against him, even at that point, would I approach him in a storm and tell him that he was ignorant? And I'm mighty, I'm in heaven, you're on the earth. I'm going to give you the questions, you ignorant man, and you're going to answer me. No, it's almost like, okay, the trial is still going on here. And now it's where the rubber meets the road. It's confrontation time. You said you wanted to speak to me. You wanted to present your case. Now's your time. Oh, by the way, you're ignorant and you have no knowledge and you really don't know anything. This is not the way, I humanly think is the right way to approach this. And you probably don't either. This is Job chapter 40, verse 1. Job finally realizes, I need to shut my mouth and not challenge anymore. I need to be more receptive of what he has to say. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? Are you going to instruct me, Job? Are you going to tell me what's right and what is wrong, what's just and what's unjust? Are you going to reprove me? Why don't you answer that question? Then Job answered in verse 3, behold, I am vile. And what am I going to answer you? Instead, I'll lay my hand upon my mouth. Good decision. Very, very good decision. You know now it's best to shut your mouth and just listen and receive his words. That's what you need to do. And that's what all of us need to do. When we think we've been treated unjustly and we think, life has just handed me, a bad deal and things aren't right. Well, really, does your Father know? Does he know what's going on in your life? Does he understand? Did he create you? Who's the ignorant one? Who's in heaven and who's on the earth? Okay, verse 5, once I did speak, but now I will not answer. Yes, twice before I was blabbing with my mouth, but I will proceed no further. Then answered the Lord to Job out of the whirlwind, and he said, gird up your loins like a man, and I'm going to demand of you, and you're going to declare it to me. Come on, you were mouthy before. You were saying, if only I could present my case before him. So he's just not letting him off the hook. What a terrible experience. Will you disannul my judgment? Will you condemn me that you may be the right one and that I'm wrong? Do you have an arm like God, or can you thunder with a voice like his? Why don't you deck yourself with majesty and excellency? And this is one of the most wonderful places we see sarcasm coming out of the mouth of our Creator. Why don't you deck yourself with majesty and excellency and array yourself with glory and beauty, Job? Why don't you cast abroad your rage and your wrath? And why don't you behold everyone that's proud and haughty and abase that person? And look on everyone that's proud and bring him low and tread him down. Tread the wicked down in their places, Job. Hide them in the dust and bind their faces in secret, since you know so much. And then I'll confess to you that your own right hand can save you. What a punishing experience. You know, I don't know that anyone else in the entirety of the whole of the Bible was treated this way. No, it wasn't unjust. No. Everything he did was right. Our Father knows what he's doing. He knows how to work with his own clay, right? Okay. You can think about that for a while. Think about the sarcasm and how sarcasm is used as a teaching tool. If we ever come back again to this study, I'm going to cover some other material concerning words and speech. But it is after 10 o'clock. I haven't heard much of a peep out of anybody other than Stacy. So we're on page 14 of 23. There's a lot more material that can be amassed together on this topic. So if anyone would like to, go ahead and.
Okay. Yeah, this would be a good time for a discussion. What was it? Can you email me your notes so I can post them?
Yes.
Okay, I will try to get those up with the recording. So any other comments? This is a really good subject for comments.
Remember now, when you comment, choose your words carefully.
Ha 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 ha. It's just been a long week, you know. It's just, you know, this is the right thing to have after such, you know, an interesting trial. But definitely hear what you're saying, Al. Because there are times where we've been in the presence of others who don't necessarily believe the same way we do, and you know, you want to talk, you want to say something to them. I'm referring back to like an interactive study that may or may not have occurred a month ago. I don't want to get too specific. But it's just interesting because as the person speaking, you know, you get this rush of anger. Are you angry because, are you taking it personal? Are you getting angry because you've got some sort of trauma in your life? Are you getting angry because this reminds you of an experience, you know, like I said, trauma in your life, or, you know, something like that? And I kept going through all these things, like, why, you know, why am I getting this anger? You know, why is what this person's saying angering me? And then this calm just comes over. You know, it's like, no, you're not angry. And then I just said what I had to say, and that was that. And it just seemed, I don't even remember exactly what I said, but I had a couple people come up to me and said that was like the right thing to say. It was at the right time. We agree with you. And you were very polite to this person where I probably would not have been. And I was like, wow. And I think, you know, if you add those steps to what you're talking about when you're considering what it is that you're going to say, you know, you just kind of analyze, okay, why am I feeling this? Where is this coming from? Is this me? Is this me? Is there something outside of me? Because again, we wrestle against principalities of the spirit. You know, is there a spirit in that room that is angry? You know, it could be so many things, and just trying to figure it out in a split second to the point where, okay, now is it the appropriate time to say something? You're muted, Alan. Can't hear you.
Timing is very important. Timing can make or break a comment.
Well, that and making sure you know why you're saying.
I've actually had the same experience where I've actually, when it came to my neighbor and stuff, I got angry, but I think that there was some trauma from my past because I've been taken advantage of so many times throughout my life, and people, walk all over me, and I get to the point where, okay, they do it so often of wanting this, wanting that, like if, for example, if you brought some chips and dip home from the store, and she sees me getting chips and dip and bring it in, she would go and knock on my door and saying that she wants some. And it's like, so it seems like she's taking advantage of. But I've experienced the same type of taking advantage of when I was in high school, people borrowing money from me, So it was like I feel like I'm some of my past of, people taking advantage of me is coming up to the now, and I'm like fed up with it, and I'm like trying to nip it in the bud because I feel like I'm going through a cycle where, I'm like, people want to take advantage of me at certain times of my life.
Yeah, well, you do need to have boundaries. I mean, healthy boundaries. You're not somebody's doormat, and you're not supposed to be walked on by anybody. So,
and that's how I was feeling. That's how I was feeling. I even gotten to the point with, this is how bad things were with my neighbors, is this one particular neighbor that I was talking to you guys before had it where they thought that I was her granddaughter, and she wanted me to go and be waiting for her outside until 3:00 in the morning when she was going to the emergency room, and I was waiting for her to come home. And it happened 2 times in the same week. And I was really tired. I got sick because of I didn't get good sleep, and it was like
well, there's a time to say no.
Yeah,
there is a time to say no, I cannot do that, and you have to know when to say no. And it's something that you have to develop the ability to know when to say yes and when to say no. And to be firm, but not mean, just to
right.
be firm.
And then on top of that, I get tired of people telling me how to wash my clothes and how to go and, everything. It's like she goes and complains that my clothes are wrinkled or whatever. And it's like, I get, it's like, well, it's not like I'm going to a business meeting or something. I'm just around the house. Around the apartment building, doing my laundry and stuff, and she complains that my shirt was wrinkled.
Hi, this is Charlene, Alan's wife. My mother lived in a place like that, and a lot of people, they just don't have anything else to think about or do, and you just have to ignore them and not really say anything. Let it just go right over the top of your head, because
They're demanding.
They're demanding. And they're old. Lots of them are old. Just learn to let it go over your head. Just let it go.
Well, here's the thing: is for me and stuff, it got too bad and stuff that I could not handle it, and and because everybody in my apartment building is trying to learn and understand me, my beliefs, my dietary laws, and all that things, and they think I'm crazy.
They don't have to know all that stuff about you. You don't have to explain your life to them.
Well, the thing is,
you're not obligated to tell everybody all the details of your life.
I know that too, but I'm just saying, like, for example, in the community room, there was this one like egg thing that has like ham and everything, and I told somebody that I don't eat that because of my faith, and then somebody told me, "Oh, you don't need to say that to them," and it's like it hurt my feelings that they told me what to say and what not to say.
Yeah, you might be taking people a little too serious.
Maybe I am, but I'm just saying that's I've heard it from her so many times, and I snapped on her and I said, "Don't tell me what to say, what to do. you know.
Yeah, you don't have to go there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We have a comment from the chat room. It says, "A good man showeth favor and leadeth,
Lendeth.
lendeth." Is it okay? Sorry. And will guide his affairs with discretion. The key is discretion.
Right.
That was from the Meyer Ranch up there in beautiful northern Wisconsin.
Right. Use discretion when telling people your private affairs, and you're not obligated to answer people's questions. You can smile when someone asks a question. You don't have to answer them. You can be pleasant and be nice and be polite, but you're not obligated to explain your life to people who are going to be criticizing or people who are going to be negative. You're not obligated to do that.
And
But
Stacy,
you have to decide when it's okay and when it's not okay.
right. And Stacy, along with that, when you do share things of a personal nature, some people take that as an invitation to provide you unsolicited advice, such as
Right.
the woman who's trying to tell you how to do your laundry. And again, we're not trying to tell you how to conduct your life. We're just trying to give you advice from experiences we've had. And
Right.
to Charlene's point, there are just some people out there who have nothing better to do than
Mhm.
gossip and meddle in other people's lives because, you know, they're just not comfortable with where they're at. And so if they feel they can control somebody else, therefore they feel they have control in their life, which we all know that's not true. And so there really is only one authority and one leader to whom we need to look, and that's our Savior. And so if you just keep focusing on Him, and when this kind of stuff happens, just take a deep breath and say, okay, I'll take that under advisement. And that's all you got to do, you know? Or, oh, that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that with me. And that's the kind of stuff that helps to kind of give you an armor, if you will. And although what they might say pierces you initially, once you start coming back to them with those kinds of responses, they'll be like, oh, she's not worth the effort. I can't get to her anymore.
Yeah.
Or you can look them in the eye and say, how long have you been like this?
That's the sarcasm coming out.
Oh,
No, Stacy, don't do that. Don't do that.
I should have known that was going to come from you.
Thank you, Laureen. That was an excellent comment.
Hey, I'll tell you this and stuff. She actually told me that one of her family members, who's a Jehovah Witness, actually says, "You need Jehovah," to her. I almost wanted to say, "You're right." Your family member's right.
Hmm.
Well, it's a pretty universal message. I realize, you know, it may be not going to really cause a lot of controversy because it's pretty simple, basic idea about talk. Being able to bless or to curse, speaking into the life of another person, having the power to affirm and strengthen and encourage versus also having the power to criticize and hurt.
All right.
It's a very basic universal message, but it's one that we all need to be reminded of time to time, even though you know these things, because we need to exercise it and strengthen it.
Definitely. I mean, you know, looking towards the future and the kingdom and even beyond, you know, not really even knowing what's going to be even beyond the kingdom, we can make some guesses. But right now, the household of faith is under judgment. And not a bad thing. It's that we've been given the opportunity to exercise these gifts, to, you know, strengthen these muscles, because we're going to need them in the kingdom. We're going to be dealing with people that have gone through a very traumatic experience. We're going to be angry at God. Why did you destroy the world? Why did you have this happen? You know, why did you interfere with my wonderful life that, you know, I had serving the beast, or, you know, I'm just getting out there, but you know what I mean. We're going to be dealing with.
People are already saying that today. I mean, people who fall on hard times and have severe setbacks in health or finances. I mean, even today, Lorraine, you know, people are responding with the why me, the pity party, and the accusing God of all the problems that they have. And so even today, what you're saying is true for the future and for today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one of the worst things you could say is, well, it's because of the choices you made, you idiot. I mean,
Yeah, that'll never really help so much.
That'll really work really well.
We had somebody do that to us.
Yeah.
And, you know, I get the whole thing. I think it's Isaiah where it says, no longer will you not see your teachers, but you'll hear them say, you know, here's the way, walk ye in it. That's going to be us. You know, that's going to be our job. And like, you know, Alan's saying, we have the power of life or death. And if our duty is to help others to come into the family, the last thing you want to do as a representative of the family is to, you know, make them think we're dysfunctional and hateful and hurtful.
And critical.
And critical, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. I've experienced people who have been very critical to me, and even biological family have been critical to me, especially like my mom yelling and cussing at me and stuff. And telling me to, when she does that, it's basically when she's telling me to lie to this person or lie to that person, and I telling them flat out, no, I'm not going to. And then that's when the rage comes up.
Well, and you're being put in a difficult spot, and I can empathize with you when you have a family member who's ensnared in a particular behavioral pattern, but you're also wrestling with honoring your mother and father. So in that point, you need, or your mother in this instance, so at that point you need to kind of disassociate and realize that they're a fleshly human being, and that in you doing the right thing, you're honoring your spiritual father at that point. And in the long run, when she comes around, whether it's through resurrection or maybe in this lifetime, maybe she gets baptized, who knows, that you will be honoring the intent or the life that God wants for all of us to have.
Well, I'll tell you this, the saddest part about this is that my mom's a lay pastor at a Methodist church and is doing this to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Not to reveal too much, but my father was a deacon. So we have much in common, my dear.
Yeah, titles don't really establish spiritual fruit.
That's absolutely right.
It is basically a title is something that's pasted onto a person because they're supposed to have certain responsibilities, but it does not mean that they're capable of those responsibilities. It
also doesn't mean that they're in charge of your spiritual growth or where you go, because we're told to work out our salvation on our own in fear and trembling.
Right.
So.
But I'm just saying that while I've been growing up and stuff, in general, when I was like little, my mom used to scream and yell at me, and you know, I learned that, you know, that's a norm. That, you know, when people uplift me up, it's like I don't even know how to respond anymore that much, because it's like I'm so used to the yelling and screaming and tucked down and all that type of thing. And so that extreme is, you know, something that was very hard. What I've done was I've slammed doors, I've cried, I've, you know, all that type of thing growing up and stuff. And I did not have very many friends and stuff because my family didn't let me go over to my friend's house of sleeping over when I was a kid. I've had a bad growing up, and it's like, to me, I'm learning that this is normal, you know.
Yeah, but you have the power to change the direction of your life now because you know better. And little by
Right.
little, you can make choices now that are positive in direction, making the right kind of friends, making friends
Right.
who understand that, yeah, you've had a very tough road, but if a person is willing to be your friend and to love you as a person and accept you in
Right.
spite of the fact that, yeah, you're not a perfect person, then
Right.
that's what you want to look for in people.
Exactly.
And you want to be the kind of person that people want to be a friend with. You know, you
Right.
don't want to be obnoxious and, rude and difficult and, or complaining all the time. But if you're the kind of person people want to be a friend to, you're going to attract people then. And then you can select which ones are the right kinds of friends. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a hard thing for all of us. We've all had bad friends. We've all had abusive families in some degree or another. We've all had
Right.
that. And, we're all a mess, Stacy. Every one
Yeah.
of us. We're
But
all
the thing is my mom still, does that, and she also is trying to control my life, even though I'm not living with her and I live out on my own, as a widow. My mom is like, every single time I say I'm going to go on a trip, she's always like worried. Oh, this could happen to you. That could happen to you. And it's like I can't even leave the country of the United States. If I wanted to go to Israel, I can't without her, jumping on me saying how dangerous it is.
So the answer is God protects me. I have faith in God. And if you continually bombard me with fear, you're telling me that you don't have faith in God. There you go.
I've shared that with my mom, and she's like, she says her way's the only way. I say no, it's not, and we get into an argument and all that type of thing.
But you know what's beautiful about this is you've been on the receiving end of a poisonous tongue. I mean, you know
Yep.
what it's like. You know how it makes you feel. You know the fruit
Right.
of it. But now you have the choice to either reflect that or do the 180. Because,
Right.
like back to what Alan was presenting, we have the power of life or death. And it's a lot in the tongue. And it's so easy to slip into the behavioral patterns that you were raised in, or
Right.
that you were, if you're in a marriage that was abusive or whatever it might be, or you're in a friendship, because friendships could actually be abusive and controlling. It's just easier because that's what you know. You don't really have the experience of trying it a different way. I mean, it's not easy. It is not easy when you first start out doing it, and once you become very conscious of what you say, and even more importantly, how you say it, as you go through this process, it becomes natural. Do you drive a car?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. You ride a bike?
I used to, but I haven't
Okay.
done it for over a year.
All right. I'm searching for an analogy. How about walking? You know how to walk. Okay.
Yes.
So once you learned how to walk, you didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to focus about balance and taking the right
Right.
steps and not tripping. It just came naturally. And so, back to what Al's saying is you got to practice this. And when you get it to the point where it just comes naturally, then you now start reflecting the Father and the Son, because you just do it naturally. But it takes work.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to add something, dear? Yeah, I'm going to hand this off to my husband. 1 second.
And also, I mean, I've been in situations very similar to that before as well. And the first thing that anymore, for the most part, I still slip, we're human, but the first thing
Right.
that comes into my head when people start talking to me that way is thinking, okay, how would Jesus respond to this? And think of the scriptures. You can only remember basically one time when he really got angry, and that was the tipping of the tables thing in the
Right.
temple, right? everything else, there's analogies, whether they've been added later as far as historically, scripture and stuff, as far as they're ready to stone a woman, right? And
Yep.
so, and the guys are all shouting and yelling, essentially. This is kind of just a loose translation of it. But he's not getting back in their face and, you're screaming and yelling. He's down scribbling something in the sand with his finger. He's very calm, very collective, but he's got the right answer for them.
Right.
Let you who is without sin cast the first stone, and they all started walking away, because that's how you do it. You do it with that kindness and that love, but it's also very thought-provoking. So you got to kind of have a little bit of pause there when somebody comes and starts talking to you like that. You got to stop and think. I know it sounds like the whole thing as far as what would Jesus do, but what would he say? How would he respond to that? And kind of get into that same mindset.
Right. And the thing is for me, I sometimes question, am I in a righteous anger or am I not? That's the question I keep on asking myself. And a lot of times I am in a righteous anger because I'm like angry because of how my neighbor treats me, continuously treating me not so good. I was like, enough is enough, or when my mom goes and tells me to lie, then I get angry, about that, or tells me to work shoveling snow on Shabbat like they did last year. This past winter, I had like a power outage, and my mom wanted me to, because I went over to my mom's house to stay the night since I did not have any power, and my mom wanted me to shovel snow the following morning on Shabbat, and I told my mom, is it an emergency? My mom says no. Then I say, well, I'm sorry, I can't go and do it on Shabbat. I'll do it after 4 o'clock in the afternoon when Shabbat's over. That's what I told her, and she wouldn't agree to that. So she got angry at me and told me to walk home. And I was like trying to walk home in knee deep of snow.
Sometimes communication, the way we communicate with an unreasonable person can kind of let's calm them down. Like a soft answer turns away wrath, as the Proverbs say. So when you respond to your mom when she's upset, you need to really calm your voice down to a lower tone, and to sincerely let her know, I've heard what you did say, and I understand what you're saying. However, this is where I'm at right now with this. And sometimes it helps if you can just keep the emotions down on your side. It helps the other person to do that as well.
Yeah. Well, I tried to by telling my mom that I'm sorry I can't shovel snow until after Sabbath, and she got angry and blew off the handle and said, if you're not gonna go and shovel the snow when I say to go ahead and walk home. So I walked home half of the way home, and I finally found a bus pass, and I got onto the city bus, and I took the bus the rest of the way home since I would be walking in knee deep of snow.
Well, you found a bus pass. I mean, the Lord delivered you from, your trial.
Yeah.
But one thing that I found too is when the voices start to escalate, and you just keep repeating in a low monotone, I hear what you're saying. That's wonderful. But they are going to have to dial it down a notch in order to hear you, over that, over time. But then again, there are situations where people are coming at you, rapid fire. I mean, I don't have the quickest comebacks, and I can't necessarily always answer. And I just have to say, you know what? I'm done here. I'll come back when you've cooled off, but I can't have a civil conversation with you right now. And I think that it's best if we just kind of take a break for the moment, and then just do that. And it's a hard thing to say. It's a hard thing to come up with. But if you practice saying that, that kind of gives you that protection, that buffer, gives you time to kind of come down off the adrenaline, to kind of move away from the situation. Because again,
I tried that before, actually. I tried that one time when I was in a restaurant and my mom was yelling at me because she wanted me to lie to somebody. And I told my mom no, and she wanted to start getting angry, was starting to get angry with me. And I said, well, I need to get some fresh air. And I walked out, and then my mom was still angry and said, go ahead and walk home. And so I just walked out of the restaurant. I came back after I cooled myself down, and she says, oh, I thought you were walking home. I said, no, I'm not walking home. I was just getting some fresh air because I could not handle, both of our attitudes and argumentation and stuff like that. So I had to get a breather. So that's what I said to her. And she was like, well, if you're going to want a ride home, you have to talk to Dad about it. It's like, okay, but they were the ones that took me there.
wow.
So that's how kind of, extreme my parents have been. And I've been realizing my mom more likely has like a narcissistic spirit type thing to her.
Yeah, well, most people do. You might have to, if she's always unreasonable, if it's always a blow up, if it's always high
Most of the
tension,
time.
then you might have to limit how much contact you have.
Yeah, I've done that with her, of leaving her for some time and then coming back and so forth. But she like one time just says, I don't understand why you leave, come back, and leave and come back. Well, one thing I told my mom with that kind of question is I said, I leave so maybe I can let Yah deal with you and then come back to see what Yah has done in your life, if anything, if there's been any changes. And that's the reason why I come back, to give you another chance.
See, that probably comes across as condescending.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, I'll just let God deal with you, and then I'll check up on you once in a while to see if you've made any progress. That's kind of the way that comes across.
Yeah.
Almost kind of like accusatory.
Yep.
So it sounds like you have a rather toxic relationship with her.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a toxic relationship.
Maybe the best thing for you to do is limit your contact with her and do it only in times when you can bring a blessing. Like when you can give something or offer something or write a nice card and say, been thinking about you, but limit your contact so that every time it's always something positive coming from you.
Yeah.
And even though she might not accept that, it will set up a new pattern because you're going to have to break the old pattern to establish a new one.
Right.
It's a hard thing to do, but if you're intentional about it, you can start to be a person that brings a positive spirit into her house or into her presence.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. Just the other day, I surprised her by giving her a call and saying, hey, I got some soup for you. And I brought over some soup, and she questioned, why are you bringing over soup? You normally don't be doing things like that. And I said, well, I've gotten a few blessings of food I wanted to share with you. And that's how I responded.
Yeah, well, that would be a good thing to start doing that more often so that it becomes the normal contact that you have with her.
Yeah, well, whenever I have extra food and stuff, I will plan on doing that type of thing. But my mom has told me in the past that she's not able to eat any ordinary food. She's like very limited on what she's able to eat. You
Well,
know?
you need to find out what she really likes and what she can eat so that you can be that person.
Well, the things that she can eat is things that we can't eat, like alligator meat and bear meat are the only two things she's able to keep down, and that's like almost impossible for me to find around here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure of that.
But that's the only things that she can keep down. So the food that I brought, my dad was eating that and stuff, and that was it.
Mhm.
And it's not food directly for her. So I can't go and find any food for her that she can eat. She can't even eat vegetables.
That's
Like,
unusual.
yeah, I know. Her doctor gave her a whole big list of what she's able to eat and what she's not able to eat. And it seems like everything is like vegetables she can't eat, fruit she can't eat chicken, she can't eat turkey, you know, and it's like if she's not able to eat those things and only able to eat lobster, not lobster, but alligator and bear meat, it's like up here in Wisconsin, where can I find that? You know? And my mom and
Never
stuff
heard of
pretty much has to take a medication made from pork just to go and be able to digest any food. So I feel really sorry for her, but you know, it's like I don't know what to do for
Yeah,
her.
that seems very unusual.
I know, but that's
So,
what's going on with
Mike,
her.
Mike Waters, I see you out there. You've been very conspicuously quiet. Is there
Yeah,
some
he's
reason? Are you avoiding me for some reason?
yeah, he's a good one because it sounds like your mom is basically eating things that are causing. There's so many things that could be happening, but right away, when you're eating things that God doesn't want you to, it changes the brain chemistry. It changes so many things about the physiology of the human body that, quite frankly, makes it much easier for these kind of negative thoughts, as well as even these evil spirits, to have a stronger influence. Because when the body's weak, it's much more open to disease and other things, which I'm sure Mike is going to fill you in on.
Oh, I agree with you on that and stuff. I try to share with her about the dietary laws in the scriptures, and she says, "Well, you know, I can't even eat any of those things because of fruits and vegetables she can't eat." It's like if you can't eat fruits and vegetables, then it's like, what can you really eat? That's how I brought it to her.
Hmm. Yeah, it's difficult.
Hello, Alan.
Hi, Mike.
I was just absorbing everything. Thank you for all the comments from everybody. And my 2 words about the subject at hand is it's complicated.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Human beings are complicated animals. Hmm.
It would probably take a whole lot to untangle that web. And that's where we're not the potters, we're merely the clay. And what I learned what I came to the conclusion at college was there is a God and I am not him.
That's right.
And I think that we, we are in complicated situations, and prayer, just prayer is a big step. Prayer and fasting is a bigger step, and just walking one step at a time is the only way we can get through it all.
I would say amen to that one, Mike. Putting one foot in front of the other.
Day by day. Yes. But, when the time comes, it will be amazing to see the miracles that happen in all of our difficult people in our life and how they're transformed through the work of the Holy Spirit. And just to see that happening, we know that day will come, and we just need to wait patiently for it, and and then be blessed by it when it happens, and happy to see the transforming power when all people become new creations, because we know that we're first fruits of many brethren, and that not many people have the joy of receiving the Holy Spirit at this time. That gives us a peace that passes all understanding, and the abiding joy that we have in our life. So we can do our best to be a good example, but we do look forward to the time when all of our relatives will also receive the Holy Spirit and have their life transformed.
Yep. Yeah, we want it now, but we don't get it on our timetable. Just like we want certain things for ourselves, more understanding of certain things, better able to produce fruit in certain things, and we want it now.
Is that kind of like teach me patience and teach me now?
Yes. We all want everything on our own terms.
But we have our family here with the church brethren, that's our kind of our new family, and we can lift each other up and support each other and encourage each other to spend time studying together, and we can do all of these things and have that peace in the fellowship that we have now. And of course, sometimes there can be challenges with brethren in our fellowship even, but that's the one thing we can have, is that's a great joy, is to learn from each other. Like now we're able to discuss these things and gain a few tips, and I've just been listening. There's just a lot of good information that's been put out here and good examples, and I appreciate the ministry just of being able to participate with the discussion.
What?
Well, here's something happening over there at the Blizzard Ranch.
Oh, Paul's trying to remember the name of a song. I don't know that one. But basically,
Words can build you up, words can tear you down. It's a very popular mainstream Christian song, and I can't think of the name of the artist who sings it.
Speak Life.
Speak Life, yes.
Yeah, Speak Life.
Very, very appropriate as far as that. It's a good instruction as far as how we should speak.
You don't hear Paul very well.
Yeah, the song he's talking about is called Speak Life. Is it by Chris Tomlin? Or Toby Mac? This is by Toby Mac. And yeah, it's called Speak Life, and basically some days the tongue gets twisted, other days my thoughts just fall apart. I do, I don't, I will, I won't. It's like I'm drowning in the deep. And let's see, the chorus is, you speak love, you speak life. There you go. Good song.
Seems to fit. Good fit. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So let me throw this out there along the same thought as the study we looked at, the Aaronic blessing. When somebody spoke those words, what is the overall effect on the people? What do you think it is that was passed off from the priest speaking that blessing that penetrated into the psyche of the recipients of the blessing? Any thoughts on that?
My own thought is encouragement, just building up and lifting up and encouraging, and being reminded of things we already know, but it's still encouraging to hear it.
Especially if you believed what it says.
Yes.
Because if you take the words of that blessing as factual, then you can say, I know that these words are true. It changes your perspective. It changes how you view yourself and how you view your brothers.
When I hear it, I actually feel very encouraged and really really I am that blessed, That's how I be feeling, like really the Father's blessing us. That's how I'm seeing it. And it's like it I have like a mixture of feelings, like I'm happy, but I'm also how some people say I'm so happy I could cry, like that type of feeling. I also feel that feeling too. So because I have like a mixture of emotions at that time and stuff when I hear that blessing and stuff, because like with what you guys know of my past, it's like I rarely have had a blessing spoken over me and stuff. So when I hear it, whether I'm reading it or I hear somebody saying it over a congregation or a fellowship or whatever, it's just like, wow. It's like it comes to life, like the Father is speaking it himself.
Yes.
And stuff to us.
Yes.
And it's like kind of like if you're putting a blessing over your own children. That's basically how I feel. And it's like I've never experienced that before until I heard that blessing spoken before. So
We used to have many years ago. He's passed away now for quite some time. Ken Omick. I don't know how many of you remember Ken Omick.
I remember Ken.
Yeah, he always used to end his presentations with, he said, as God had the Aaronic blessing, and he always did a blessing to the group. He always did like a quick prayer, and may God be with you and help you through the week. He always ended his presentations like that. I thought, at the time I didn't really think much of it, but as it sank in, I thought, what a cool way to end.
Yeah, that sounds excellent.
Yeah, well, I've been listening to Rabbi Snyder and stuff on TV, and he does that blessing at the end of every single one of his messages. And that was like the first time I've ever heard it.
Yeah, it's kind of like if it's just done routinely, it can become less meaningful. It's like saying the Lord, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. If you keep repeating that over and over again, the power, the strength of it seems diminished, right? Less meaningful.
Yeah, but that's with anything. It's like even with doing Kiddush, if we do Kiddush every single Sabbath, the meaning can be taken out of it.
Yeah.
Same type of a thing, because at my fellowship, every single time we get to fellowship, we're we're doing the kiddush like every single week that we get together, which is like between 2 to 3 times out of a month. So it's like a routine.
Yeah.
Ah,
But I wonder why they were instructed to speak that. Was it because there was no other blessing at that time that was being spoken? And was each component of that blessing designed to have its own special edition? I mean, each one of the phrases, they're not identical. So it's supposed to be like a package, right? This blessing is a package that was given, and the instruction was, this is what you are to say. So I wonder if that was specifically designed to, not just to encourage, but to impress upon the psyche of Israel how much they meant to him, how valuable and how personal he looked at them. I don't know.
well, it makes sense. As in Psalms, I think it says, what is man that thou art mindful of him, right?
Yes.
Or what's, is the one about consider the lilies, that, God clothes them in majesty and he cares about the fallen sparrow. How much more would he care about you? Sometimes when you're in a trial, it's hard to really grasp that you are a precious child of God. You're the apple of his eye.
Yeah, it's very hard.
And I think I'm kind of running out of steam myself. I don't know how you do it. But
Well, it's only 11 o'clock here.
Yeah, it's getting on to 10 o'clock here. But I do want to tell you that, number one, I love hearing those blessings and stuff from the Father, That's one thing I really love.
Yeah.
well, maybe in learning how to speak better to each other, in theory, the Father is using us to speak blessings on each other.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to do that.
yeah.
Become well practiced. Well, thank you, everybody, for hanging in there and listening. Appreciate that, and hope there was something in there that was helpful.
Yes, there was. It was a good session. I appreciated it.
Yeah, it's very good, Alan. Appreciated it.
And send
And be sure to email us the notes.
Okay.
This study actually has been making me think and so forth, and it's gonna help me in the long run. Thanks so much.
Good.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you always. Oh, and Stacy, before you go,
Okay.
did you get your feast travel plans resolved? Because I think you were going to be calling the coordinators of the feast site to see if they'd be able to take care of your additional needs there.
I did not do that and stuff at all. But I know when I get to the feast, I got I've talked to somebody about getting transportation to and from the airport. That I have done. There's a person named Harold that's working with me to try to get transportation to and from the airport to Windermere. So,
Okay, so you're covered from your house to Milwaukee or to Mitchell and back?
When it comes to from my home to Milwaukee, pretty much I got somebody who's willing to do it. I just have to pay them $50 and they can take me straight from my home to Milwaukee and back at the end of the feast.
Okay.
So that I got covered and stuff. And then once I get there, you know, I got Harold who told me that he's going to try to get somebody to pick me up at the airport.
Okay. And then I think the advice from, and forgive me, I can't remember the gentleman's name, was that if
Yeah.
you were to contact the feast coordinators, that more likely than not, they'd be able to help you with the food situation too.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's what he said. But I'll go and, you know, I think it's best that I just
You
do
just got
what
your
I got-
internet back, right? So you couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't do it, so.
All right. Well, we'll touch base with you later and see how that went.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought we were fellowshipping now, guys.
We are.
Says we're still recording.
Yeah, we're fellowshipping now.